By the way, real quick, before I begin, I'm going to talk about branding in just a second. But if you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend in the resources section, kind of on the left side, there's a resources tab if you've never seen it. And I update it consistently with different ebooks, different courses, different documents, resources, just things to help you out in whatever goal you have. So there's stuff in there about getting in shape. There's stuff in there about finances, stuff in there about credit, stuff in there about how to start a business, stuff in there about real estate, how to invest, things like that. One of the most recent videos I put in there was about branding. And I put that in there. I recently bought a course on branding. To me, branding is one of the most important things you can do in 2023 and beyond. I definitely think that it's going to be a competitive edge for people to understand branding, get into branding, brand themselves effectively, and use their brand in order to generate income or gain exposure, or even if you're trying to get a job at a corporation. I think having a brand is going to be essential. So if you haven't yet, I highly recommend you check out the branding course. It's not my course. I did not make it. I purchased it. And one of the things I'm planning on doing, I'm trying to get into the habit of remembering to do this, is if I buy a course, I want to share it with everyone in the roundtable, in that section, so you can view it for free. And in the future, if you are watching this and you paid for a subscription, that is part of what the subscription pays for. It pays for those courses and for those resources. That costs money. So instead of you having to pay for it out of pocket full price, it could be like $1,000, but you're paying basically a discount because you get it in the roundtable forever without having to sign up and do all the extra stuff. So hopefully that makes sense. But go check it out. But on the topic of branding, I do want to kind of go over just a few things that I think will help you build your brand from the start. Real quick, let me pull this up. I'm going to bring up the whiteboard and try this out. I don't use this much, so hopefully I don't mess things up. There we go. So yeah, when it comes to branding, I took some notes on a few things that I think will be pretty helpful to you. And I just kind of want to cover that before we kind of kick off this roundtable session, before we talk about your goals and how we can help you and what you're working on currently. And I'm kind of looking at my notes, so if I stop and look down, got my notebook right here. So yeah, a few years ago, real quick, I'm going to give you a story too. A few years ago, I used to do this thing called College Conqueror. If you haven't heard about it, I don't want to get too deep into it. It was just basically a business that I had to help high school and college students excel in college, but also beyond college. So I was teaching things about just different resources. I was teaching different things that I think the average college student doesn't really learn. The things that I think school doesn't teach. So I was teaching about credit, teaching about different types of investments. If you were a student, I was teaching about externships as well as internships, all of those things. Yo, what's up, man? Welcome to the roundtable. But one thing that I saw when I was doing College Conqueror that I thought was beneficial, and now it's going to seem super basic. You probably know of people who do this, but at the time there was this guy called Thomas Frank, and he was in that kind of niche as well of educating college students. Hopefully you can hear me, by the way. I have my mic on. Let me know, Bob, if you can't hear me. Let me know. Shoot me like a sound effect or shoot me like a chat or something like that, just so I know that my mic is working and you can hear me okay. I'm gonna continue as if my mic, okay, cool, all right, perfect. But yeah, so saw this guy named Thomas Frank, and basically what he was saying is one of the best ways for a college student to get ahead in their career was to build a personal website. And again, it sounds super basic, but most people back then, when I did College Conqueror, this is like 2015 or 2016, something like that, maybe 2014, most people didn't really have a website. As far as an individual goes, most individuals did not have websites, especially college students. You may have seen celebrities with websites, or you may have seen musicians or rappers or things like that with their own personal website. But the idea of an average college student or high school student or even a random adult having a website was rare. And I think even to this day, even though websites have obviously been around, there's been improvements, websites are more accessible, it's still not that common for people to have a website. So I'm going to kind of go through some notes I have and just some ideas I think people can use if you're in the roundtable to start your personal brand. And I'm going to try to be as specific as possible, give kind of my 2 cents and my steps and all that stuff that I think, will be useful. So bear with me if I try to use this, because I suck at some of these apps and activities in Discord. So yeah, like I mentioned though, first thing I think you should do is get a website. Now, I build websites. You don't need to pay money for a website. There's a lot of different resources out there that allow you to use different types of websites that are free. My recommendation, if you don't have the money to buy a domain, which is the main thing you're gonna have to do is buy a domain name. It's not that expensive. It depends on what the name is, depends on how fancy you want to get. In general, if it's just your first and last name, it'll probably cost you like $10 a month, $120 a year. Depends. You can get it from like GoDaddy. Bluehost is one that comes to mind. They're relatively inexpensive. I can't think of any more off the top of my head. Yeah, GoDaddy and Bluehost are the main ones. If you just type in domain on Google, you'll find a huge list. You can just buy one, and then you own the domain, so that way no one else can take that www.whatever.com. So for example, my URL for my website is just www.lennyrichardson.online. I recommend doing .com. The reason why I have .online is because I bought LennyRichardson.com, and I bought LennyRichardson.online separately by mistake. Somehow I bought them both, and I messed up the website where I made the website initially for LennyRichardson.online, and I thought I made it for LennyRichardson.com. And then by the time I realized what I did, I'd already fully built out the website and added all the stuff, and I didn't feel like recreating it or switching it over to LennyRichardson.com, because I had been doing marketing with real estate, and I had been putting LennyRichardson.online in my marketing. So I didn't want to go back and change everything that I had already put out there, if that makes sense. Is this going to be uploaded? Yeah, so I'm recording this right now. Hopefully, this is my plan. Hopefully the recording does not mess up. If it doesn't mess up, it'll get saved in the roundtable, and it'll go in the resources section, and I'll have it labeled by the date. And I'll put some cliff notes too, just in case, if you want to just kind of get an idea of what we talked about, or if other people miss this, or they don't want to sit through the whole thing, it'll have cliff notes. Yeah, the jam space I don't think will get saved, but I'm screen recording right now. So hopefully, let me just double check to make sure my screen recording is still good. Yes, okay, perfect. So yeah, first thing, get a website. You don't have to buy a domain. If you don't have the cash for it or the funds and you're just starting out, don't buy one. I don't recommend it. My personal belief is if you're starting a business, you want to be as lean as possible. If you can avoid spending money, don't spend money. It will, let's just say your name is John Smith, and you say you use Wix to build a website. It will say johnsmith.wix.com. Is that such a big deal? I don't think so. It'll look a little bit ugly because it'll have Wix's banners on the top and on the bottom, or whatever, if you're using Squarespace or if you're using WordPress or whatever. But in the grand scheme of things, I think you'll be more impressive than everyone else that lacks a website completely. So that's the first thing you should do. Just get a website, get one started. The 3 things I think you should focus on if you build a website is an About Me page, different programs you have. So say for example you're a copywriter. I'm using you as an example because I saw your chat pop up. Say you're a copywriter. What you should do is have a tab that says programs or materials or portfolio or something like that, and you put your copywriting program, and you put testimonials or whatever you have that shows and demonstrates how competent you are in that area. Does that make sense? And then the final thing would be, oops, it won't let me click. There we go. No. If you can't tell, I don't use Jamboard, whatever it's called, that much. Last thing is social links. As weird as it sounds, and this is one of those things I'm just now trying to get into, social media is like the place that everyone goes to for information, for content, excluding things like YouTube. I don't count YouTube as social media. If you go on Instagram, people scroll through Instagram all day. If you go on Twitter, people on Twitter all day. Facebook, usually for older people on Facebook, but still, Facebook all day. TikTok all day. These are the places where attention is flowing. And I think when it comes down to it, attention equals currency, absolutely. And in order for you to get attention, you need to be at the places where people's eyeballs are, which is social media. So having social links on your website, I think, is a necessity. You have to have your social links. I think if you want to take it up a notch, it's good to have your content itself either on its own separate page, or maybe you can link to it. I know on my website, I don't know if I have it on the main page anymore. I used to. It has my Instagram feed, like the 3 posts, the most recent 3 posts that I had. It shows it on my homepage. So if someone clicks on my website, they can see my content. And then if they want to engage with me on Instagram or check out more of my content, they can click one of my social links and do so. But yeah, I think those 3 things are essential. And of course, too, a contact me page. That'd be the final thing. Give some people a way to get in contact with you. But the main reason why I say the website is so essential, years ago, I used to work at a law firm, and it was a very competitive law firm. It was difficult to get into. And it was a small law firm, but they would only accept like 1 or 2 people when they were hiring. And I remember they had all these resumes, and it took forever for me to get like an actual interview, and then I had to go for a second interview. And when I went to my first interview, all of the attorneys were impressed because they said no one else had their own website. I don't even think they really like read all the content on the website. I think just because I had my own personal website and I had some blog articles, and they had an idea of who I was and an idea of how I wrote and things like that, that made me stand out more than anyone else that applied. So, like I said, that works for if you want to have a job in the long term, but I think in general, that works for anything. If you want to market yourself in general, having a personal website, I think, is the best way to kind of start your brand off. So, now I think once you... Let's see if I can pull this up. We're going to move this to the side. Now, I think once you kind of get the website down, the next thing you're going to need are photos. Now, again, if you haven't seen, I posted a new course in the resources area, and it's about building a personal brand. So it's an actual full course. I paid for it myself with my own money, but I put it in the round table so everyone can view it. It has masterminds, has all the modules, has all the PDF files. It shows you like tons of stuff about how to brand yourself. But one of the things that I think you need to have for a personal brand is high quality photos. And I think photos to me is a tricky thing, because I think you can have a high quality photo, but if the photo itself doesn't, what's the way I want to put it? You almost want to tell a story with your photos, and you want someone to be able to look at your photo and get an idea of who you are, or at least what you want people to perceive you as. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'll give you a good example. If you're a real estate agent, you want high quality photos, probably of you looking great, like looking in a suit, or you with high quality houses, or you with nice cars. And I know that sounds materialistic, but I think because you're a real estate agent, you need to sell the idea that 1, you're a good real estate agent, which means you can close, which means you know what you're talking about. And 2, you need to seem competent with high quality houses. And I think the higher quality of the house in your photos, the more appealing you come off as. So if you're a real estate agent, for example, just sticking to real estate agents, and you say have photos, but they're blurry, they're really like dinky apartments, dinky houses, you might think you're marketing yourself, or maybe you're not even in the photos. You might think you're marketing yourself, but I think in reality, you're putting people off because you're showing the world, I don't take high quality photos. So if I don't take high quality photos for myself, I'm probably not going to take them for you with your money or with your time. I only work with small properties. I don't work with large, grand luxury properties. I only work with these dinky apartments or these dinky houses or these filthy places, these areas that you probably don't want to buy yourself. I don't put myself in the photos, so you don't know much about me. You don't get an idea of my personality. I think you have to have all these things in your photos. It's kind of like someone good to look up if you get the chance is Ryan Serhant. Ryan Serhant takes some great photos on his personal page. But they're all tied to, he does a lot of videos too, but they're all tied to grand, luxurious, beautiful properties. The photos and the videos are all HD quality, 4K. When he does take other photos that don't involve real estate, he puts his family, which I think is a huge marketing in to show your family. I think people really get emotional with family. Grant Cardone's a big guy with that too. He puts his daughters and his wife all the time. Alex Hormozi's another one. He puts his wife all the time. Of course, they work together, so it's a little bit different. But still, that family aspect, I think, is critical in a business. And I'm not saying you have to do that. I'm just saying if you have a family or if you have a wife or whatever, I think that'll help you convert a lot more. It's something about having a family or having kids. There's something sentimental about that I think draws people in, and it makes you more trustworthy in their eyes. But yeah, another good example of photos while I'm on this. Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan by extension, but both of them. All of their photos involve themselves usually looking good. They usually take photos with girls. So if you're a young man, which seems to be their target demographic, they draw you in because most young men like beautiful, attractive girls. Tristan always in his photos, always has a nice, well-fitted suit. A bespoken suit. Sometimes they have guns. Again, they're trying to play off that mafia badass vibe. You see Andrew, he doesn't dress as, I would say, fancy as Tristan, but he does tend to wear sort of his blazer with his black t-shirt. He usually has nice pants, nice shoes, so he's displaying wealth. They say, what is it, a picture's worth 1,000 words. I don't think, and I see some people, they have photos, they either have no photos on their social media or on their website, which I think is the worst that you can do, or they have low quality photos. So it's photos they took with their own camera, selfies. I'm guilty of this too sometimes. I'm trying to get out of it, and I'm actually in the process of trying to hire a photographer now for more photo shoots, because I've hired one in the past, but I stopped working with them. Nothing was wrong with them, they just live far away, and it was a hassle. But photos from a professional photographer, not your camera, not selfies. I would say unless your friend is a good photographer, not even your friend, don't, if you have to, then do it if you don't have the cash for it. But I would highly recommend just getting a photographer, a professional photographer, to go to several key locations that look aesthetically pleasing, or at least display the things that you want to demonstrate with your brand, and have them take photos. Now, I've done this in the past. Like I just mentioned, I did this in the past. Had a photographer. We spent about, I think, 4 hours in DC just snapping photos. And I kind of gave her an idea of what I was going for, the look I was trying to go for. It was for real estate at the time. So I was wearing a suit in most of the photos, at least. And sort of a, what are they called? Like an overcoat. I reused the hell out of those photos, by the way, because they're the best photos I have. And I had another buddy of mine, he's a photographer. He did some with my Camaro. You might see some I have sunglasses on. I'm either in the Camaro or I'm outside the Camaro posing. They're okay. They're decent photos. I paid the photographer about, I think it was $150 for those 4 hours, which I think is pretty good. I think that's a pretty good rate. Obviously, it's going to depend on the photographer. It's going to depend on where you are. It's going to depend on what you're asking for, because they do editing too. They take the photos and then they edit them, and in my experience, the photographer will take a ton of photos and then they'll probably let you keep 30, but they'll have you choose the best 30, and then once you choose the best 30 that you like, they edit it with Photoshop to make it look brighter, to make it look clear. They take out any blemishes or things like that. Basically Photoshop to make you look good. The photographer I'm speaking with now, he charges, I think it's $120 an hour, something like that. But he also does really good photos, super high quality photos. So just to give you an idea of how much a photographer might cost. Now again, if you don't have the money for this, I understand that can be expensive. Have a buddy who's really good with photos, and that's the key thing. Really good with photos, have a nice quality camera, have them take photos of you. That's better than nothing. Don't take selfies. I think selfies tend to look bad. the front-facing camera looks awful because it gets blurry. I wouldn't recommend it. But definitely take photos. And the photos will be used for your social media as well as your website. And then I kind of mentioned this already, but the final thing, and I highly recommend people do this. I've had friends in the past I've shared this with, and they'd get so much more attention when they did this. And it's going to sound obvious, but a lot of people don't do it. Is on your website, have a whole portfolio page. Again, I've said this earlier, but it's better to demonstrate the work that you can perform than to just say that you can do certain jobs. Does that make sense? Like, for example, I had a friend in the past. She was an insane artist, super good artist, like one of those photorealistic people that could like sketch almost as good as an actual photo. And she was trying to get like art jobs, and she was sending out like resumes and stuff like that. And I was like, why don't you have a website? And she was like, what do you mean have a website? I was like, have a website, put who you are, put your story, put why you got into art, put what motivates you, put all these things. And then on a separate page, put all of your art and put the story behind the art. And obviously make it high quality when you do the photos. Don't just like take a photo with your camera then upload it. Like really get a nice quality scanner or find some way to take whatever art, at least in her case that she had, and then turn it into a high quality digital photo. And then when she did that, she got so much more attention. And like, again, it sounds obvious, but people don't do this. Like, sit there right now and think to yourself, how many people do you know that has their own personal website where they do all these things, where they talk about themselves, where they have high quality photos, and they have a portfolio showing their work? If you're a copywriter, show different copywriting pieces that you have. Talk about the conversion, talk about the story, talk about the case studies. Let people be able to click on a PDF that shows the exact step-by-step process that you use to get results for your client or for yourself or for whoever. If you're a fitness trainer, put routines in there. Show your story. Show how you took yourself from maybe being overweight to being super ripped, or how you took Sarah from being super overweight to being super fit, or Johnny from being super overweight to super fit. Hopefully you get the point. And I know it sounds super basic, it sounds super simple, but most people don't do this, and it always blows my mind. So that's kind of the main things. And then one last thing that I want to recommend, and I don't think a lot of people do this, and I didn't do this for the longest, and it sounds like common sense once I say this to you. Have an email list. I remember this popped up a lot in Russell Brunson's, I think it's Traffic Secrets. It's either Traffic Secrets or .com Secrets, both of which I recommend. I'm going to put this down here because actually all of these books are good. And if I don't already have them in the resources area, I'm going to get them. If I have to pay for them, I'll pay for them, and I'll put them in the resources area as an ebook. So if you don't already have the books, sure, you can buy it if you want, but if not, let me know, and I'll get to it eventually, but if you don't have it and you want to read it, I'll get to it faster, and I'll put these in the roundtable so you don't have to buy them yourselves. But yeah, 3 books you should read. I can't spell. .com Secrets. I think Traffic Secrets. And what's the last one? Expert Secrets. All 3 of these books are fantastic. I've read them multiple times. I'm going to reread them again. .com Secrets, it sounds pretty straightforward. Talks about building up your website. Talks about... What's up, man? Welcome in.
Yeah, what up?
But yeah, .com Secrets talks about building up a website, what you need to have. Traffic Secret, straightforward. Talks about how to get traffic to your website or to your funnels or to whatever you're trying to launch. If you have a different business or whatever. And then Expert Secrets is how to make yourself into a brand. And he kind of gives a framework and different scripts you can use to basically market yourself. And he uses these techniques all the time. He puts in the book when he uses it. So if he gets you to buy something, you'll know how. But yeah, have an email list. And the reason why I say this is because social media is fickle. And I think it's good to own your own... What's the best way to put it? You want to own your own list, but you want to own the people that follow you. Not in like a bad way or a sketchy way or anything like that. But say, for example, Threads was the new thing with like Meta. Maybe like the first 2 days you managed to have people that followed you and maybe you were getting people checking out your content. And then I feel like Threads died after like a week or two. Like no one used it that much to my knowledge. So if all the people were only on Threads and you didn't find a way to get their email so at least you can contact them once Threads became dead, all the work you put into Threads in the month that it was actually lively is gone. Another quick story before we kind of get into the actual talk, so I'm not rambling too long. I had a buddy. I'm trying to get him in the roundtable because he's a pretty big YouTuber. He has like over 100K followers or subscribers. He, in the past, was at like 50K or 60K, and he does like police investigations on YouTube. If you get a chance, I think his name is still Andre Shouldn't Drink. He may have changed it, but that was his YouTube name. He had about like 50,000 subscribers, and he made a video about police, and I guess YouTube didn't like it, so they banned him. They didn't suspend him, they banned him. So all of his subscribers were gone.